The Russia-Ukraine war has been going on for a while now, while the whole world watches from a distance, wondering when it will stop. While there are many well-broadcasted major events that have happened in the war that led to loss of life and properties, there are many mysterious ones that just went below the radar without much explanation. From prominent businessmen disappearing never to be found to gas leaks that no one could explain. Here are the most mysterious events of the Russia-Ukraine war. But first, take a moment to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more amazing videos. Nuclear plant structure. Early in 2022, rumours surfaced that claimed Russia had started unlicensed construction on a strange building outside the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station in an area of occupied Ukraine. It is a mysterious building that authorities have described as being in serious breach of key health and safety laws. Its actual function is also unknown. There are numerous questions in Ukraine and among its allies about the illegal construction work being done by Russian engineers and military men. The Russian soldiers occupying the power plant have been refusing Ukrainian employees access to the facility and are keeping it under armed protection night and day, despite the fact that Ukrainian personnel have been running it ever since the region was captured, which only heightens the mystery and intrigue. Using the nuclear materials and radioactive waste stored at the facility, Ukraine's energy operator and Energoatoma have suggested that Russia may be preparing a terrorist act. Hergalatom went on to point out that damaging the nuclear waste would result in a radiation incident and radiation contamination of several hundred square kilometers of the surrounding area. Although Russia's claims that Ukraine is getting ready to deploy dirty nuclear weapons on the invaders are unsupported, Russia has retaliated by levelling its own charges. Britain, the United States and France rejected these claims as being obviously untrue. Russia appears to be using the development of what it has repeatedly called a dirty bomb by Ukraine and its Western allies as an excuse to hide the existence of its own dubious nuclear and chemical programs, the specifics of which won't likely be known until the liberation of the Japanese nuclear power plant. Inside job. War is rarely waged only on the front lines, and this is also true in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia has had to deal with a number of strange explosions and fires at important areas and facilities around the nation, in addition to the exchange of weapons and continued conflict in the east. These assaults appear to be acts of sabotage and were probably carried out by insiders. Naturally, Ukraine has been held responsible for these instances, although there doesn't seem to be any proof to back this up. The fires and explosions, which have been occurring since the start of Putin's war, appear to have been directed at Russian military installations, including munitions factories, communication centres, and industrial complexes like oil refineries and aerospace development firms. It's unclear whether the attackers are cooperating, but it seems like they all wanted to disrupt Russia's military operations and find weaknesses in her defences. The explosions and flames might be the work of a single group, or they could be the work of some of the more numerous Russians who are opposed to the war, especially those who risk being drafted into the Russian armed forces. Given their random and erratic character, as well as the kinds of sites that have been targeted, it appears particularly likely that the attacks are guerrilla operations carried out by irate Russians. An effective guerrilla effort like this might have a considerable effect on the direction of the conflict, especially in light of the huge casualties incurred by the Russian military during the invasion of Ukraine. Poland missile explosion. On the evening of Tuesday, November 15th, when Russia started a large missile attack against Ukraine, one missile reached Polish soil, killing 2 people. This incident sent shockwaves of panic around the world, leading many to believe that Russia was waging war against yet another nation. United States President Joe Biden and a number of other world leaders met in an emergency session at the G20 summit to talk about the situation. Poland's military security was put on high alert as a result of the attack, but neither Russia nor Ukraine accepted responsibility. According to the Polish Foreign Ministry, the missile was launched from an S-300 system and was produced in Russia based on pieces found at the impact location. It was also made apparent, though, that this did not necessarily directly implicate Russia, as both Ukraine and Russia had been utilizing Russian-manufactured weapons throughout the war. Both the Russian and Ukrainian militaries employ the S-300 air defense system, a ground-to-air munition launching system with a maximum range of 90 kilometers. Although its main function is to intercept missiles or airplanes, the Russian invaders have also used it to strike Ukrainian ground targets, despite the country's President Zelensky's insistence that the missile in use was not Ukrainian. According to NATO, the event was most likely brought on by a Ukrainian air defense missile that was fired in order to protect Ukrainian territory from Russian cruise missile assaults. While the missile most certainly originated in Kiev and was meant to take down a Russian missile, NATO representatives and other international leaders have emphasized that Russia still bears responsibility and blame for its aggressive activities. Watch that window. In the early stages of the war, numerous prominent Russian businessmen, oligarchs and leaders, the majority of whom have opposed Putin, passed away inexplicably. Some of these deaths have been quite routine, like a stroke, while others have been gory and somewhat imaginative, like the death of an aligned energy executive from toad poisoning after visiting his shaman's basement. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure. One aviation industry director who reported directly to Putin reportedly fell off his luxury yacht and drowned. Another former head of the Moscow Aviation Institute allegedly fell down several flights of stairs. The shaman testified that the executive had arrived at his home while intoxicated and demanded that he perform a healing ritual to relieve hangover symptoms. The chairman of Russia's largest private oil company perished in an incident that the Kremlin-approved media reported as an accident involving a fall from a hospital window while smoking. There will probably be more strange fatalities, but critics are very dubious because they believe that Putin is using blatantly inhumane tactics to crush political dissent and resistance to the war. Nord Stream dark ships. A series of explosions on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipelines, which pass across the Baltic Sea, led to serious gas leaks on September 26, 2022, at a time when international interest was already at an all-time high. Following that, 400,000 tons of methane gas leaked into the atmosphere through the sea, and images of the hazardous outcomes showed the sea's surface fiercely boiling. Given the significance of the gas being transferred by these pipelines from Russia to Germany and the current geopolitical unrest and energy problems in the EU, many people feared sabotage. Although it's possible that Russia would try to cut off gas supplies to Europe, and there are many ways in which it would benefit from doing so, there hasn't yet been any evidence to support this theory. Both Nord Stream pipelines are majority owned by the Russian company Gazprom, which is also state-owned. But it was obvious that the explosions were most likely the product of a planned attack. However, their trackers had been observed in the general area of the leaks in the days preceding the explosions. It wasn't until early November that proof started to emerge in the form of satellite data that indicated the two big ships. These two mysterious ships, according to an analysis of satellite data, were between 95 and 130 metres in length and passed the region of interest within a few kilometres on both occasions. It appears that the black ships purposefully turned off tracking beacons to avoid being discovered. Although uncommon, this activity can occur for causes other than international sabotage, such as participation in modern slavery or illicit fishing smuggling. NATO believes the occurrence was a, quote, intentional and reckless act of sabotage, despite being reluctant to blame anybody or divulge the specifics of the finding and prospective assault, according to a representative for the organisation. A crew examined several old satellite photographs with a concentration on the regions near the explosion in order to make the crucial finding about the black ships. Only 2 of the 25 ships that had sailed by in the 90 days before the tragedy had their beacons turned off, they discovered. The 2 black ships had broken international law by sailing without tracking beacons, sometimes known as AIS transponders, which concealed information about their name, alliance position speed, and direction of travel. The chance of a formal sabotage charge has significantly grown, even in the current investigations cloaked in secrecy. New information suggests that the black ships may have been engaged in a clandestine military mission. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you want to keep learning more about the biggest secrets of our world and the universe beyond.